The elevator doors closed behind him. When they opened again, 23 seconds later, he was gone. Security footage showed everything. The man entered. The doors shut. The elevator rose exactly 3 floors. The doors opened. Empty. No body. No trace. Nothing. Just an abandoned briefcase lying on the floor, and the emergency button pressed from the inside. His name was David Marshall. 42 years old, senior accountant at a mid-sized firm in downtown Chicago. Tuesday, March 8th, was supposed to be just another normal day. He arrived at the office building on South Franklin Street at 8:45 in the morning, like he always did. He scanned his badge at the lobby entrance. He walked past the security desk. He smiled at the receptionist. Then he stepped into elevator number 4 on the ground floor. He was alone. The cameras captured everything. David wore a gray suit and carried his leather briefcase. He pressed the button for the 7th floor, where his office was located. The doors slid shut. The elevator began to ascend. And then, in less than half a minute, David Marshall vanished from existence. When the doors opened on the 7th floor, a colleague named Rachel Santos was waiting to get in. She saw the empty elevator. She saw the briefcase on the floor. She thought it was strange, but she assumed someone had forgotten it. She picked it up and brought it to the reception desk. It was only when David did not show up for the morning meeting that people started to worry. His assistant called his cell phone. No answer. She checked his office. Empty? She asked around. No one had seen him since he entered the building. That was when Rachel remembered the briefcase. She opened Italiano. Inside were David's wallet, his phone, his keys, and a half-eaten granola bar. Everything he needed to function in the world. But David himself was gone. The building manager reviewed the security footage immediately. The video was clear. David entered the elevator at 8:46 and 12 seconds. The doors closed at 8:46 and 17 seconds. The elevator traveled from the ground floor to the 7th floor without stopping. The entire journey took 23 seconds. When the doors opened, the elevator was empty. There was no other exit. No ceiling hatch had been opened. No panel had been removed. The emergency phone inside the elevator had not been used, but the red emergency button had been pressed. The time stamp showed it was pressed at 8:46 and 29 seconds. 11 seconds into the ride, while David was still supposed to be inside. Police arrived within an hour. Detectives sealed off elevator number 4. They searched every inch of the shaft. They checked the cables, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. They found nothing. No hidden compartments, no secret doors, no sign of forced entry or foul play. The elevator was just an elevator. But David Marshall had disappeared inside it. Investigators pulled every piece of footage from the building. 32 cameras covered every hallway, exit, stairwell, and corner. Not a single one showed David leaving the elevator or appearing anywhere else. They checked the roof. They checked the basement. They checked the parking garage. Nothing. It was as if he had been erased from reality. The building was old, built in 1967, renovated twice. Elevator number 4 had been inspected just 2 months earlier. It passed all safety tests. There had never been any incidents. No malfunctions, no accidents. It was completely ordinary. Until that Tuesday morning, David's wife, Lauren, was questioned extensively. She told police that David had been acting normal. No signs of stress, no financial trouble, no arguments, no reason to disappear. They had 2 children, ages 9 and 6. David loved his family. He coached his son's soccer team. He attended every school event. The night before he vanished, they had watched a movie together and went to bed at 10:30. Everything was fine. Detectives dug into his life. His bank accounts showed no unusual activity. His emails and phone records were clean. No secret relationships, no debts, no threats. David Marshall was exactly who he appeared to be. A quiet, dependable man who loved his family and went to work every day. There was no reason for him to run, and no way he could have. His co-workers were interviewed one by one. Everyone said the same thing. David was reliable, friendly, normal. But one detail emerged that seemed insignificant at first. A woman named Patricia Huang, who worked on the 5th floor, mentioned that she had ridden the same elevator the day before David disappeared. She said it felt strange. The air inside felt heavy. She heard a faint humming sound that did not match the usual motor noise. When she reported it to maintenance, they checked the elevator and found nothing wrong. The report was filed and forgotten. Until now, maintenance records were pulled going back 5 years. Elevator number 4 had a history. Small, unexplained incidents. A man reported feeling dizzy after riding it in 2021. A woman said she heard whispering sounds inside when she was alone in 2022. Another person claimed the floor numbers on the display panel flickered and showed floors that did not exist. 14/22/31, the building only had 12 floors. Each report was dismissed as mechanical glitches or imagination. But now, investigators wondered if something else was happening. 3 days after the disappearance, a building engineer named Frank Torres came forward with something strange. He had been working in the basement that morning, checking the electrical panels. At exactly 8:46, the lights in his work area had flickered just once. It lasted less than a second. He did not think much of it at the time. Old buildings do that. But when he heard about the timing, he realized it happened at the exact moment David entered the elevator. Investigators brought in electrical engineers and elevator specialists. They tested the power systems. They examined the circuits. They found a minor power surge at 8. It was small, barely noticeable, not enough to cause any malfunction, but it was there. Documented. Real. And it coincided perfectly with David's disappearance. Then, 8 days after David vanished, something else happened. A maintenance worker was cleaning the elevator shaft. He was suspended on a safety harness between the 3rd and 4th floors. He noticed something scratched into the metal wall of the shaft. It was faint, almost invisible. But when he shined his flashlight on it, he saw words, carved with something sharp. It said, "I'm still here." The handwriting was analyzed. It matched David's signature. The scratches were fresh, made within the last week. But how? How could David have carved those words into the shaft wall when every camera, every search, every investigation found no trace of him? The elevator had been sealed off, guarded. No one had accessed the shaft except authorized personnel, and none of them had seen anything. The discovery of the message changed everything. It meant David had been in that shaft somehow. But when and how? Forensic teams returned to the shaft with new intensity. They analyzed every surface. They used luminol, ultraviolet light, fingerprint dust, and thermal imaging. On the metal panel near the scratched words, they found something. A partial fingerprint. It belonged to David. But there was something wrong with it. The print appeared smudged, distorted, as if it had been pressed against the metal with unusual force or at an impossible angle. A physicist from Northwestern University was brought in to consult. Dr. Alan Brenner specialized in spatial anomalies and theoretical physics. He examined the elevator, the shaft, and all the data. He proposed something that sounded like science fiction. He suggested the power surge, combined with the specific electromagnetic field generated by the elevator's motor, might have created a momentary disruption in localized space. He said, theoretically, David could have been displaced, not to another location, but to another state of existence within the same space. He called it a quantum overlap. Most investigators dismissed this theory. It sounded absurd. But Dr. Brenner pointed out something no one could ignore. The emergency button was pressed 11 seconds into the ascent. That meant David was conscious and aware something was wrong. He tried to stop the elevator, but the distress signal never reached the control panel. It was recorded, but not transmitted, as if the signal existed in a space the building's systems could not access. Police brought in cadaver dogs. They searched the entire building again. The dogs hit on nothing. Psychics were consulted privately by Lauren, though police did not take them seriously. Some claimed David was trapped between dimensions. Others said he was still in the building, somehow hidden. None of it made sense. Lauren could not accept any of it. She returned to the building every week. She rode elevator number 4 over and over, hoping for something, anything, a sign, a clue. On one visit, 2 months after David disappeared, she rode the elevator alone. She pressed the button for the 7th floor, just like David had. As the elevator ascended, she closed her eyes and whispered his name. The elevator jolted slightly between the 3rd and 4th floors. It had never done that before. Then she felt it, a coldness, not from the air conditioning. Something else, it wrapped around her like a presence. She opened her eyes. For just a moment, she thought she saw a shadow in the corner, a shape that resembled a person. Then it was gone. The elevator reached the 7th floor. The doors opened. She stepped out, shaken. She told no one about this experience. She thought she was losing her mind. But 3 weeks later, another person reported the same thing. A delivery driver riding elevator number 4 alone felt an unexplainable cold spot and saw a shadow that should not have been there. Then a janitor, then an office worker. Each time, it happened between the 3rd and 4th floors. Each time, the person was alone. And each time, the shadow appeared for only a second before vanishing. A theory emerged among investigators. A dark, horrible theory. What if David had somehow managed to hide in the elevator shaft during those 23 seconds? What if he had forced open the doors from the inside, climbed into the shaft, and was still there, hiding, waiting? But that theory collapsed quickly. The doors never opened during the ascent. The footage proved it, and even if they had, 23 seconds was not enough time to climb out and hide. Another theory suggested the footage had been tampered with, but digital forensic experts examined every frame. The video was authentic, unedited, continuous. There was no tampering. David Marshall really did vanish inside that elevator. Weeks passed. Then months. Lauren held a press conference, begging for answers. She cried on television. She pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. The story went viral. News outlets across the country picked it up. Conspiracy theories flooded the internet. Some said it was a government experiment. Others claimed alien abduction. Some believed David staged his own disappearance. But none of it explained the briefcase, the emergency button, or the scratched message. 6 months later, the case went cold. Police had no leads, no evidence, no body. David Marshall was declared missing, but not dead. His family was left in a nightmare, unable to grieve, unable to move on. The building on South Franklin Street remained open. Elevator number 4 was eventually returned to service. People used it every day, most of them unaware of what happened inside. But sometimes, late at night, when the building is nearly empty, security guards report strange things. The elevator moves on its own. The emergency button lights up when no one is inside. And on the walls of the shaft, more scratches have appeared, faint and desperate, always the same words. "I'm still here." David Marshall entered an elevator alone on a Tuesday morning. The doors closed. The elevator rose, and somewhere, in those 23 seconds, he disappeared into a mystery no one can solve. His family waits. The cameras hold no answers, and the elevator still runs, carrying passengers up and down, past the place where a man vanished without a trace. Some doors, once closed, never open the same way again.